Dafaranos. It's not the first time he's coming to Melbourne as part of some of the center's activities, so welcome back. It's a great pleasure. Ambassador Haris Dafaranos is a career diplomat. He was born in Athens in 1955. He studied law and English literature, so quite an interesting background. And he joined the Hellenic Diplomatic Service in 1980. So he served in many different locations, and that includes Saudi Arabia, Jerusalem, Sweden, South Africa, India, West Africa, and he's in Australia since November 2012. So you've chosen a very challenging topic, so it's the EU at the crossroads, lesson learned, and challenges ahead. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have to say that I am very obliged to Monash, to your department, and to you attending this lecture, because you give me the opportunity to speak about my country as part of the European crisis. And before I begin, I thought that it would be nice to give you the opportunity to see a 3-minute video clip, which in a way encapsulates what are the feelings the average Greek feels about what has happened 5 years ago, and he's feeling it every day. So please watch this small video clip.
I am one. I am one.
I am one. I am one.
I am one person.
I am one person.
But together.
Together.
Μαζί.
We are an idea. Ιδέα.
No walls.
No borders.
No limits.
No limit to what we can do.
Greeks have lost a lot. A lot. But there's one thing you can't take from us.
You cannot take away our smile. You cannot take away our nature.
Our fire.
Our honor.
Pride. Our love of people.
My home, my family, my memories.
Most of all, never, ever will anyone be able to take away the Hellenic spirit.
Nobody can take my identity.
We're not going anywhere.
But up.
Forward.
Together.
Why should people care?
My heart actually bleeds for Greece right now.
We are family.
We have the same blood running in our veins for thousands of years.
These people are me.
And don't let anyone tell you Greeks are lazy.
Lazy? Really?
That's not what I'm saying.
Not what I'm doing.
We have no shortage of drive.
We just want to work.
To build.
To dream.
To dream.
Time to build the Greek dream. Because we need to try something new.
Because Greece needs heroes.
It's gonna take time.
Money.
Energy. Imagination. But if we work together,
Actions, not words.
we can spark a revolution.
Of doers.
And donors. Like you.
Like me.
Like me.
Like, why not?
Why not take the journey?
For Greece.
For Greece.
For Greece.
For Greece.
Για την Ελλάδα.
Because Greece is unique.
Because this crisis doesn't have to define us. Because I need to dream.
Let's tell a new story.
Ας κάνουμε μια νέα αρχή.
Together. All together.
Let's tell a new story. Let's tell a new story together.
No tragedy.
No drama.
Well, maybe some drama. Hey, we're Greeks after all.
No excuses.
It will be collaborative, creative,
Refreshing.
It will be inspiring.
It will be fun.
Φανταστικό.
It will be epic.
History is ours.
History is ours for the making.
The birthplace of civilization is back.
We can do this.
But only if you join us.
Let's do this
We can do this.
together.
Come on.
To one Greece.
Μαζί.
Μαζί.
Ella. We are one Greece.
I am one Greece.
One Greece.
Μία Ελλάδα.
Είμαστε μια Ελλάδα.
Όλοι μαζί.
Όλοι μαζί.
Όλοι μαζί.
We are one Greece.
We are one Greece.org.
Thank you very much, my dear Alfonso. I wanted to show you this small video clip because I wanted you to feel how the average Greek feels. Of course, a video clip shows something which is more beautiful, more romantic, but it is extremely interesting that a crisis is not only a drama, it is an opportunity for change, an opportunity for changing mindset, an opportunity for a collaborative approach. So, dear friends, I'm honored to be among you in the frame of this series of lectures on crisis within the European Union. First of all, allow me to congratulate all the colleagues at the Monash European and EU Centre for putting the correct perspective. The crisis, as it began in late 2009, was and is European, and that's why 4 to 5 years later, we managed to see a very interesting institutional framework of firewalls and other mechanisms in the form of an armory and safeguards against future similar economic risks. I'm happy to be among you because it gives me the opportunity to share with you thoughts and update you on, I would characterize them, heroic sacrifices Greece as a nation, as a country, has undergone believing in the European dream. But I must confess that this would not have been possible to a very large degree if there was not available a factor which is very important, European solidarity. I say to a very large degree because the austerity which has been imposed on my country was and still is draconian. And as in the question of the IMF, you know, they calculated certain economic multipliers, which in the end proved to be not the appropriate ones. They were very harsh for the circumstances. So, due to that, the economic sacrifices undergone by the Greek people were and still are very much felt. To my recollection, and this is something I want you to note as a first remark, no other countries in the post-World War II period has undergone such a drastic 25% loss of her GDP in just 4 to 5 years. Greek people have proved not only to be heroic, but also patient and resilient. They lost almost half of their salaries, their pensions, and their superannuation rates. They lost their jobs at a rate of 27%. The youth has lost employment opportunities at a rate of 57%. So, without exaggeration, this crisis was and still its residue is ugly. Although the lessons have been learned and the appropriate conclusions have been drawn by everybody in Greece. In a previous lecture, when I was invited by Ben Wellings, and I thanked him for this last January, I said crisis is in Greek means judgment. Yes, it has proved to be a milestone in modern Greek history, but I would say also a very interesting chapter in modern European history. I'm not going to speak too much about the causes. You know, most of you know. You are familiar with. First of all, we remember that the GFC, hitting Europe, exposed the weak actors. Deficiencies of the European architecture were brought to the surface, and Greece has been a characteristic example. Not the only, but a characteristic example. The old practices of overspending and overlending could not be sustained anymore. You could not continue borrowing and at the same time having lost your competitiveness, while other partners were enjoying excessive trade surpluses. So you are going to ask me, was this crisis in terms of Greece inevitable? Was it necessary? My reply will be very sincere and direct. Yes, it was inevitable, but there is something else. It's social cost, the collateral damage brought to a society. This is what wounds me, not only as a diplomat, but as a person and as a European. And this is what makes my argumentation a bit sharper and maybe interesting to be heard. We tend to speak proudly about statistics and performance. Yes, we have remained in the Eurozone. Yes, there has been European solidarity, but not for free. Yes, at reasonable rates. I agree. You know, there is a Greek proverb which says, the operation was successful, but the patient died. So my point is that, yes, at this very moment, Greece has made significant steps to revive her economy, to repay what she owes. I think that it is calculated that we have to pay for 30 years 9 billion euros every year, capital plus interest. To change business ethics, to change mindset, but Greece is not today the same society that joined the Eurozone some years ago. You know that we believe in Europe, in the European idea, where democracy, liberty and the welfare state prevail as values and system. So if you see the Greek society today, she is far distant from what she was in 2009. There is no liquidity in the market. Most SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, are bankrupt. People try to survive with limited revenue. They cannot pay their rent. Owners cannot receive their rents. Depositors have run out of cash. Demand is very low. I'm not going to speak about brain drain, which you can imagine, particularly for the highly skilled and professional people, is an escape valve. So the disposable income goes to survival needs. The country is in survival mode. Thank God, there are two industries which are thriving. One is tourism, the other is shipping. In 2013, Greece received 20 million tourists, 18 million coming as visitors, 2 million coming through international cruises. You know that we have an archipelago which consists of around 1,200 islands. Tourism brought at least 18% to the annual GDP, but this is not enough. Shipping also, you know that Greece has the first commercial fleet worldwide, cannot be a cure. So you will ask me, what should be done, what is necessary? I would say that, firstly, on the European level, in my opinion, things have to intensify. I would focus on policies for growth, assistance for growth. Secondarily, I would favor a serious discussion with the rest of our partners, the IMF. Such a discussion must begin, and it must be focused on a debt relief. You might ask, why such a preferential treatment for Greece? My reply is very modest, because Greece, as a test case, reveals something deeper, a maybe uglier face of the crisis in Europe. It is a pathology which is linked with the loss of sovereignty, the division of European partners between creditors and debtors, the austerity which aggravates the crisis, the social damage inflicted by the push for further depression. It is also the psychology of despair. It is the anxiety for the loss of the social safety net. It is the growing wedge between people and European political institutions. It can be also the rise of nationalism in an ugly and extremist way. It can be the worry about the fate of the European political project and the subsequent loss of faith in it, where everything in front of you erodes and dreams and aspirations for a sustainable living become a luxury or an extravaganza. There is undoubtedly, in my opinion, a need for a new European narrative. But you will ask me, how Europe should react Is there a momentum? Is there an opportunity to express such a thing? I will reply in the affirmative. What Greece and the rest of the affected Eurozone partners, it happens to my mind to think about Cyprus and the bail-in which he has suffered in one night. What Greece and the rest of the affected Eurozone partners feel has created a first-ever seen awareness. This is a good development because both the European civil society and the business community know firsthand, as grassroots actors, what is the problem today in Europe. We all need growth and jobs. There is no doubt that we need responsible governance and fiscal consolidation, but to a sustainable level. We do not need excessive austerity which leads to depression and creates a vicious circle. Secondly, I think that the time is appropriate and conditions mature. The elections for the European Parliament at the end of this month, next Sunday, create, in my opinion, the most suitable opportunity for a new vision, a new chapter in the evolution of European integration. Maybe for the first time, the European Parliament will have a big challenge to fulfill such a mandate as a visionary and accountable European institution. The European project, which is a project of national elites as well as of the European technocratic elite, is at a crossroads. Building something which is more than just an aggregate of the constituent member states must be a process which must be sustainable, must be attractive, and must encourage all in a spirit of equity, in a spirit of justice. For the first time, the problem brought to the fore by the crisis, in my opinion, gives to European affairs, which so far have been perceived as part of foreign policy mostly, a domestic dimension. It is up to the European Parliament and the new European Commission to listen to the silent minorities, take what you want, across many member states who suffer and have legitimate aspirations. I was saying to Professor Rina before we start that, or maybe to Ben I was saying it, that Eurosceptic does not mean necessarily anti-European. The possibility to judge and say certain things, especially when you are facing all the austerity and all the regulations, this does not mean that you do not believe in the European dream, but you want to improve it. Going further, there is no doubt that the firewalls which were constituted during this period, the last 5 years, have been a very important achievement. There are support mechanisms which are a first step for stability, but one has to see things beyond econometrics, in my opinion. For example, Greece is more than her GDP. We're very small, 2% of the European GDP, a very small dimension. It is her age-long culture, it is her personality. Take what you want. You know that she has been assisted because of the need the country to become stable, but mainly she was assisted in order to stop the risk of contagion, because there was a potential avalanche in the Eurozone. Now, imposing the cost of recovery on the deficit countries in the form of excessive austerity, in my opinion, is doomed to fail. An economy without growth, or very limited growth, in 2014 we're expected to have, after 6 years of recession, 0.4, this is the estimate of development. An economy without growth cannot sustain neither debt reduction nor further structural reform. In my opinion, this applies not only to Greece, but as I said, to other fellow member states. In my humble analysis, there is a lot of potential, a lot of space for the European architecture to regain legitimacy and people support. The only precondition is to invest in the social capital of the European continent. The perpetuation of a monetary austerity approach risks to elude the European welfare social model, which no doubt we can improve in various ways, but we cannot lose it under any circumstances. So, without any doubt, I find extremely important the European policies on growth and employment. It is true that these policies exist now as frameworks. We must not only continue pursuing them, we must devote more resources to enrich them. We must pay particular attention to the role of the small and medium-sized enterprises. They are the backbone of most societies. European financing of SMEs must be the same all over Europe. I will give an example. In Greece, SMEs are financed 6 to 7 times more costly than in the rest of the Euro area. Energy costs are not the same. There are many possibilities to remedy the situation. But one thing is certain, the discussion is about to begin. After all, Europe has proven to be, as an idea and as an exercise, a resilient and attractive pursuit. We Greeks feel particularly European and will be proud if our ordeal can be an opportunity to reflect deeper on the crisis with a wider European angle. And please, we must not forget that Greece exercises during this semester for the fifth time the rotating presidency of the Council of Ministers. During the previous months, the Hellenic presidency has worked very hard with partners in promoting 3 main dossiers. One was the implementation of the Compact on Growth and Jobs. The second was the strategy to support small and medium-sized enterprises. And the third was to move forward with the banking union. There is no doubt that the country in crisis is today a country in the beginning of a recovery. A primary surplus in her budget last year is promising. She is wounded, but she's also proud, and she's also standing. And in this way, I hope we will continue our efforts, and there is no doubt that we are dedicated to the idea of Europe. For me, the discussion on the issue of debt relief remains of extreme importance and very actual, more actual than ever. I think that it will give us the necessary breathing space to move forward and to avoid ugly scenarios. The discussion on future European policies, on how to achieve economic convergence without creating a Europe of 2 or more speeds, is paramount. I want to thank you for listening to me, and I believe that the most interesting part is your comments, your ideas, and your questions. I wanted to give you the opportunity to see that this country, with the necessary support from the part of the European member states, the European partners, and the IMF, at a very difficult moment, end of 2009, was able to achieve a certain level of stability, but she had to undergo very drastic changes. She had to repay, she had to do structural changes, she had to do fiscal consolidation, and there is no doubt that certain things already materialized. Greeks is estimated that the Greek population have paid 70 billion euros in fiscal measures during these 4 years. I think that it is quite a number. Many things have changed. First of all, the psychology. The crisis might have good and bad dimensions. If you ask me which are the good dimensions, I would say the necessity to realize that it was not a sustainable path, that you could not continue being always on the status of borrowing money, overspending. As I have said in a previous lecture, The participation in the Eurozone was extremely important because it could afford our country, individuals and state, to borrow at very reasonable rates. But this was not used wisely. Competitiveness was lost. And we had a beautiful, let's say, perception, a euphoria, but which was not realistic. So what happened with the global economic crisis is that we saw the difficulties that we could not continue. The change of mindset is a very important thing. It will help us in the long run move forward. It will apply not only to the state apparatus, it will apply also to the wider population. The negative dimension is the bitterness regarding loss of sovereignty. You are obliged to follow orders. The draconian austerity which has been imposed, which devastates people, creates many dramas. And I have to confess to you that it is thanks to the resilience of the wider Greek family. You know, the Greeks are very solid in terms of family bonds. This is what made them resilient to be able to absorb all the vibes. And this was good. In my opinion, this crisis will have also other good dimensions in the collective psyche of the Greeks. It will help us regain certain values. It will help us do an introspection about the future. And to the degree that Europe also changes her perception, I think that we will be back on track. So I will be happy to receive your questions.